And so on behalf of Mayor Stephen Fulop and Jersey City, on behalf of Chairman Roger Jones and the Jersey City Employment and Training Program, welcome. This is a result of one man's vision. During the time when he walked through the streets of Jersey City, he committed to the fact that there would be one city. There would not be an uptown or downtown. There would be one city, one healed city, which would benefit from the economic renaissance in its construction of residential and commercial space. And he also understood the importance of second chances. As the old spiritual says, we all fall down, but we all get up. And so it is a great honor and privilege, by virtue of his perseverance, his conviction for the underemployed and unemployed and those who are coming home from incarceration, we establish Martin's Place. Let it be clear, this is by virtue of partnerships all across government, but here at home in Jersey City, it is the responsibility and vision of our next speaker. It's my great honor to introduce to some, present to others, Mayor Stephen Michael Fulop.
Just want to say thank you for all of you for taking time to come this morning on this special moment. If we could give all the honored guests a big round of applause. So today is a special day, not only because we're celebrating our community and the dignity of second chances, but because we're really fulfilling a commitment to ourselves, namely that we're going to offer here in Jersey City a top caliber program that provides treatment, that provides housing, and provides employment for those re-entering society from behind bars. In addition, we'll also be providing classes, instruction, and services for the unemployed and underemployed. No, you don't have to be an ex-offender to be served here at Martin's Place, but if you are an ex-offender, we have a full array of services to assist you on your path back to society. And the name of this place, this center, is also special, that it's to uplift the memory, the life, the work of Dr. Martin Luther King, who spent his entire life searching for the light of truth. The oppression that we battle today, it may look different from the evil forces that Dr. King fought in Birmingham and places like Selma, but it is really as formidable, perhaps even more so today than it was then. Every single year, thousands of people leave the prison system and jail system and return to cities just like Jersey City. And without help, those people return to the same environment as prior to the incarceration, and without any change, that cycle will repeat itself again and again and again. I want to recognize that through the leadership and support of County Executive Tom DeGise, who's here today, and the freeholders, several of them are sitting out in the crowd, Director Avila has instructed a treatment program at the Hudson Correctional Center, which encouraged women and then men to access treatment to addiction in accordance with best practices. It is a key component of this. Continuing treatment in transitional housing, and here through a state-licensed intensive outpatient program, clients are able here to access treatment from behind bars all the way through to the residential community. Originally, this program was funded through the U.S. Department of Justice Second Chance Grant, and the program remains one of only 2 out of the original 100 in the nation to receive funding, and that's due to the historic success in reduction in recidivism. I'd also like to express my gratitude to Governor Christie for his support and the tenacity of Commissioner Velez, who's here today as well. Due to our collective efforts, the results have been heartening. Of the women enrolled through the program, the recidivism rate is 24%, while the overall recidivism is 38%. We here are making progress, and you can applaud for that. Let me say, housing is as crucial for ex-offenders returning home. They're frequently precluded from federal housing, from rental assistance, from welfare, due to those distribution charges. Many ex-offenders are forced to sleep in less than desirable shelters. Due to the efforts of Frank Mazza, who's here today, Family Services Director Ben Lopez, who's here today, we are now utilizing Medicaid dollars to provide for safe, structured, sober transitional housing for our clients. It's an important aspect of this. After treatment and sober housing, employment is really what we're talking about, and it's essential. As mayor, we're working with the development community to increase the number of Jersey City residents working at Jersey City construction sites. Here in Jersey City, we have a terrific asset. Right now, we have 6,000 units under construction. We have 12,000 in the pipeline. The 20 largest buildings in the state of New Jersey, each and every one of them are scheduled to be here in Jersey City. And we are leveraging, yes? And we are leveraging this asset to create employment for both our reentry and our non-reentry residents. We are doing it right here at Martin's Place. Assisting us in this endeavor are the laborers, Ray Pacino in particular, who are hosting 2 classes of Jersey City youth, largely from public housing, that are being trained as apprentices. In fact, I'd like to point out the first class has completed their formal training, and they are visibly on Jersey City construction sites throughout the city right now. And I'd like to point out of the integrity women in transitional housing, the percentage employed is hovering above the 90th percentile. For integrity men, transitional housing, the percentage is above 70%. And while overall, I'd like to point out 53% of those ex-offenders who have been referred to the Jersey City Employment and Training have found employment. Now, finally, before I conclude, I do want to say thank you to my friend and the executive director, former Governor Jim McGreevey. Now, I met Jim about 5 years ago via mutual friends, and Jim is correct about a lot of things. At the time, he told me I didn't have a chance in hell in this election. But nevertheless, after following up, he offered to help me draft a policy to deal with ex-offenders. I seeked him out because I knew he was one of the best in the country at this. And after we worked for months and months on a policy structure, I asked him to join, and it was literally one of the best decisions I've made. What I love about watching Jim interact with residents is that it doesn't matter who you are, what your background is, incarcerated before or not. When you walk through the doors at Martin's Place, Jim is here because he knows that no matter what your background is, we all can use help and we all can use a second chance. So, I say thank you all for coming today. Reintegration does work, and this is a model for it. It requires more than merely building large jails. Reentry requires us to look at the ex-offender as we would look at a family member, and to recognize that providing the help to that one family member essentially helps the entire family. We are doing that in Jersey City. Thank you all for coming today and joining us on this wonderful occasion. Congratulations to the entire team. Thank you.
Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful city. 12 gates into the city. Hallelujah. 3 gates to the east, 3 gates to the west, 3 gates to the north, and 3 gates to the south, making it 12 gates into the city. Hallelujah. Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful city. 12 gates into the city. Hallelujah. My Lord built that city, said it was just a 4 square, wanted all the you sinners to meet him in the air, causing it 12 gates into the city. Hallelujah. Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful city. 12 Oh, what a beautiful city. 12 gates, 12 gates. Hallelujah.
Young man who served with energy in the state of New Jersey and now has been selected to lead one of the oldest and most prestigious organizations in this nation. An association that has fought the bitter legacy of racism and fought for justice and equality throughout this nation. I believe he will bring such strength and vision to lift the NAACP to heights unknown. America needs a vital NAACP. Ladies and gentlemen, the National President of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored Persons, Cornell Brooks.
Good morning. To our host, Mayor Stephen Fulop, who with Governor McGreevey serves as the architect of this Martin's Place. To Governor Christie, to Governors Tom Kean and Brendan Byrne, to Senator Robert Menendez, to Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi, to Congressman Donald Payne and Representative Series, to my friend, our colleague and the representative of Jersey City, Senator Sandra Bolden Cunningham, who with so many of you, with Mayor Fulop, with Governor McGreevey, with Governor Christie, and with men and women across this state, passed Ban the Box in New Jersey. To Assemblywoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, an architect of that great legislation, to the assembled clergy, to this wonderful, impassioned, and anointed choir and these soloists. Today represents an extraordinary moment in the history of prisoner reentry in New Jersey, the civic life of Jersey City, and most importantly, in the lives of men and women who are walking resolutely, proudly, chin up, chest out on the road to redemption, otherwise known as the road to prisoner reentry. I am here on behalf of the NAACP, the oldest civil rights organization in these United States of America at 105 years of age. I'm here at the kind invitation of Governor McGreevey and Mayor Fulop, who work together with so many of the people in this room because they deeply believe that prisoner reentry is predicated on the moral supposition that if a woman has a criminal record, it may summarize every arrest, every conviction, but it does not summarize, it does not sum up your self-worth as a child of God. That legislation and Martin's Place is founded upon the moral presupposition that if a man has paid his debt to society with the hard currency of responsibility, he deserves a second chance, particularly if he never had much of a first chance. Martin's Place is premised upon sound scholarship, which simply asserts that if we work together, if we bundle comprehensively prisoner reentry services from employee training, workforce development training, housing assistance, everything from resume writing to the resurrection of the soul, if you do that, you can put people on the road to redemption and reentry. But this place, this extraordinary place, is premised on something more fundamental that goes to the heart of our humanity. I'm reminded of a story told by rabbis and priests and ministers, clergy and lay people, imams all around the world, of a young man sold into slavery, though he committed no wrong, who found himself in prison, though he committed no wrong. The story is told that when he went into prison, he had a dream. And while he was in prison, he met two prisoners, and he interpreted their dream. His name was Joseph. Martin's Place is named after a man who, like Joseph, had a dream. Martin's Place is premised on the notion, that clarion call of our country, I have a dream. Those words that resound and reverberate down the corridors of time don't merely represent the assertion of the greatness of our country, they also represent the clarion call of men and women in Jersey City. I have a dream. Means that you have a dream of a job that represents not merely a paycheck, but a payment in dignity and self-worth. I have a dream is also an assertion of the self, which simply says that you are more than the sum of your mistakes. You are the sum of your humanity as a child of God. Martin's Place, if it does the work that it has been called to do, if we do the work that we've been called to do, the men and women who walk through these doors will emerge with their dreams intact, with their hope intact, and they will walk forth as citizens, as workers, and people we can be proud of. That's the work. That's what we're doing. That's what we stand for. And I came up here from the national headquarters of the NAACP to simply say this. For 105 years, from the period described by the historian Douglas Blackman as a period of penal servitude, to that portion of our history described by the scholar Michelle Alexander as the era of mass incarceration, to simply say, at this moment in time, there are men and women in Jersey City who are beautifully and boldly bending the arc of the moral justice, of the arc of the moral universe toward justice. We're bending it all together with our hearts and with our hands. And if you feel a strange warmness in your bosom today, that's because the hands, they're refashioning and interpreting and giving new meanings to dreams in there, are building and bending the arc of the moral universe out here. Thank you.
We're honored. One of my heroes, not only for his fight for an integrity and equality here in the United States, but God rest his soul, he fought that battle, whether it was in South Africa or in Northern Ireland. He was a congressman of great stature and dignity. We're very much honored today to have another man born and developed from that same family. A man who represents this district, who is brought up with those values we enshrine today. Ladies and gentlemen, representing the 10th Congressional District, Congressman Donald M. Payne, Jr.
Thank you. It's a real honor and a privilege to stand before you this morning in my capacity as a congressman from the 10th Congressional District, in which this wonderful edifice sits. We have an opportunity to live out this nation's great creed. Everyone, every American deserves a second chance. And if we do the things that we say we're going to do, then Martin's house will be a shining beacon light for people that think there isn't a second chance, that despair lies before them, that there's no opportunity. But this house will change that. And if I may go to the streets for a minute, and the community will let you know, and they're here to see it today, with all these dignitaries and everyone sitting out here on a beautiful September morning. You're either going to be about it or just talk about it. So we're attempting to be about it. I'd just like to, all protocols being observed, just say how delighted that I am here to have the minority leader of the House of Representatives, my leader, a great leader, the Honorable Nancy Pelosi. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you should respect that, because she could be anywhere in the United States, because she is called by everyone to be at their grand openings, their ribbon cuttings, their whatever it is. But she is here in Jersey City, and may I say again, in the 10th Congressional District of the state of New Jersey. And not only is she a great leader and gives us our marching orders and defends us and supports us, she always looks so beautiful. But ladies and gentlemen, as I go to my seat, I just want to say once again, it's a matter of being about it. So people are going to be watching this. The community will be testing us. And it is our obligation to come through for them. So I'd just like to thank the mayor once again for his vision, along with Governor McGreevey, and having Governor Kean and Governor Byrne here, two of my great heroes, and also the senator from the state of New Jersey, Senator Menendez, and my colleague in the House, who our districts run against each other, most of the length of them, Albio Series. This is our opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to do something great. And let's do the work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, I still refer to him as Speaker of the New Jersey General Assembly, but he's a congressman representing the 8th District, which takes in a large swath of Jersey City and Hudson County. He's a good man, and he's a dear friend, our Congressman, Albio Series.
Good morning, everyone. Leader Pelosi, welcome to Jersey City and New Jersey. Mayor Fulop, great to see you. Always be happy to participate in your vision for the city of Jersey City. Senator Menendez, our senator, my colleague, former governors, my colleague Don Payne. He is my dear friend. His father was an outstanding congressman. I loved him, and I love him just as much. And of course, Governor McGreevey. You know, I had the pleasure of serving with Governor McGreevey when he was governor. And this house today, although it's opening today, Governor McGreevey had this vision many years ago. Because I remember working with Assemblywoman Bonnie Watson Coleman on a reentry program years ago. And I'm very proud of the fact that he has never given up on giving people an opportunity, a second chance, because he worked as hard then to give him a second chance as he is working here today. And the result of the vision of Mayor Fulop and Governor McGreevey is what you have in front of you today. People are going to get a second chance. Over the years in my office, I would have people who made a mistake and wanted to come back into society. And today here, this is only one of 2 places in the entire country. So I am very proud. Although I don't represent this district, I'm not too far from here, my colleague. And I love just to be here to support these kind of programs. And I have a special gift for Martin's Place. It is a flag flown over the Capitol, and I would like my colleague to come down here since I beat up on her so we can give it to Jim McGreevey. Leader Pelosi, would you please come up here? Where's my...
This is flying over the Capitol.
I'm glad to see he hasn't lost any of the energy. This is Martin's Place. May it be flown with pride.
Open up. That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you. This next gentleman has always possessed a dignity, a strength, and an elegance that's all too rare in American politics today. Personally, when I was a young fellow starting out working in Trenton, he asked me to direct the state parole board, even though I was on the other side of the aisle. He's somebody who's always served this state, and I believe put the interests of the state and the nation always before his self-interest. Represents an era where privilege denoted responsibility and obligation. His family has a long, illustrious history with the Garden State, and public service courses through his veins, both here at home and in the 9/11 Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the great public servants of New Jersey, Governor Thomas H. Kean.
You talk a lot about in this country about leadership. This is leadership. This is leadership. And to see everybody here, I was trying to think as I was sitting there, can I remember any other occasion when this kind of a group of celebrities, really, from New Jersey and elsewhere, were gathered together in this state? I don't think I can. When we have the great leader of the United States Congress, Nancy Pelosi, by the way, when I was chairing a 9/11 Commission and trying to overcome some difficulties, nobody was more helpful in the whole city of Washington than Nancy Pelosi. So thank you publicly for that. And our United States senators and our congressmen, you can have 3 governors here, or ex-governors, 2 of them. So something, and the head of the NAACP, something big is happening today. Something very big, because it involves people. You're going to change lives by what you are doing here today. People are going to be different. The whole arc of their lives are going to go a different direction because of what you're doing here today. And not only them, but their children and who knows how many generations to come. And when they go on that straight path and get that job, they're not going to go back to a life that may inflict on somebody else's life. So many people are going to be impacted by what's happening today, and that's why it's a national thing. This is an example, not just here, what you're doing here, not just to the state of New Jersey, but to the United States of America, who's got to look and see what you can do here. And I'm here in a large part because I recognize it as a dream. And it's a dream of a guy called Jim McGreevey, who has dedicated his life to helping other people and to straightening out the lives of others. And that is a wonderful thing. To have a dream, a lot of us have dreams, but very few of us work and work and work until that dream comes true. And that's what Governor Jim McGreevey has been doing. And we should honor him for that, and honor him every day for that. This is a step. This is one step. And we got a lot of other steps to go. You know, there's a great spiritual that Paul Robeson used to sing. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. Amen. And every rung goes higher and higher. That's what we're doing here today. This is another rung. And thank you to everybody here who helped make that rung possible.
This next gentleman is somebody who understands in his bones and his fiber the American dream. He grew up from humble circumstances. His parents gave him everything that they had so that he and his sister could do more. And by virtue of his intellect and his drive, he ascended the ranks of local government and in the state legislature. And no matter whatever crossed his path, he never forgot from whence he came. He understood that America is a nation of immigrants, whether it's 2 generations or 4 or yesterday. He understood that there are people struggling to hold on from paycheck to paycheck, and that we all want pretty much the same thing: a safe home, a good school for our children, and the hope for a little better for the next generation. This state is graced, this nation is blessed, because in his fiber and in his bones, that fight, that determination that his parents blessed to him will never leave. Ladies and gentlemen, he's our United States Senator, he's our senior senator, but he's a fighter and an advocate for working families throughout this great nation. I present to you Senator Robert Menendez.
Starting off with Leader Pelosi, who I had the privilege to work with when I was the chairman of the House Democratic Caucus. Let me tell you, I am not surprised that Leader Pelosi is here, because fulfilling the God-given potential of each and every person has been her mission in life. So, Madam Leader, thank you very much for joining us here today. To my colleagues, Congressman Sears and Payne, 2 tremendous advocates in the House of Representatives for their people, our state, and our country. To President Brooks, I like to use the term Mr. President whenever I can, so Mr. President, welcome back to New Jersey. To all the reverend clergy that lifts our lives up each and every day. And to the mayor of this great city and his council, distinguished members of the council, let me just say, you can achieve many things, but you cannot do it alone. A part of it is having the vision, the understanding of leadership, and the willingness to have people ultimately be able to fulfill their hopes and dreams and aspirations. And Mayor Fulop is at the very essence of that leadership, that vision, and that commitment. Mr. Mayor, congratulations on today. Now, as I was looking at this distinguished lineup, I was thinking to myself, there's a bunch of second chancers here. Maybe in a different context, but there is a bunch of second chancers here. When I lost the only election I ever lost against a corrupt political machine that beat me, even though they had been convicted and sentenced to jail, I said to myself, that's it. I'm going to practice the law and do something else. But I got a second chance and got to be one of 100 United States senators in a country of 308 million people. I don't know how many of you remember, but Governor Byrne at one time was known as One-Term Byrne. And he came back a second time to lead this state with grace and dignity and do great things for the state of New Jersey. Now, Governor Christie, some suggest that his start in politics in the Freeholder Board wasn't all that great, and he came back to be a two-term governor of the state of New Jersey and may very well be a national candidate. And Jim McGreevey, he not only got to serve, I think, with great distinction, because history will remember what he actually achieved for the people of New Jersey, but he got a second chance to do what he believes, which is in the fulfillment of the God and the grace in each and every individual, and today is his second chance as well. So, Jim, congratulations. And finally, just as a final note on this second chance, even Mayor Fulop, he had a run for Congress against then a local congressman, and he got a second chance and is doing a great job as the mayor of the city of Jersey City. Now, if in fact it is okay to get a second chance in political life, why is it not worthy to get a second chance in life, pure and simple? And that is what we are celebrating today, and that's what we believe in today. You know, at every point where a person meets the criminal justice system, we must be there to show them a better way. We start, and we work hard, by making sure people never choose such a path, which requires, for example, real alternatives for at-risk use. We talk about early start, even start, head start. But when we do not achieve setting a pathway that ultimately avoids the pitfalls in life, there must be a second chance start. And that is what today is all about. You know, I am proud that we actually have a federal role here. I am proud to have been one of the sponsors of the Second Chance Act in 2008 to reduce recidivism and end the cycle of incarceration. I have followed through on the Second Chance Act, urging my colleagues to fully support the programs in last year's federal budget, in this year's federal budget, and in next year's federal budget. We need to ensure that people do not get trapped in cycles of lawlessness and despair. And the only way to do that is to reach kids before they're caught in the cycle and to have reintegration programs to break the very same cycle that we are talking about. And today, we see the dream of the Second Chance Act becoming a reality here at Martin's Place. A 4-year journey with the county executive, Tom DeGise, with the mayor, with Governor McGreevey, with the city council, with everyone coming together to create that second chance and to ultimately be a place of light over darkness. Because the only way that we ultimately move the darkness out is to do it with the light. And Martin's Place will be a place of light, a place of light. Let me close by simply saying I'm proud to see that what the federal law is in essence, in many ways, the fulfillment of what we wanted to see. And Martin's Place has been recognized by the Bureau of Justice Assistance as at the forefront of the reentry field. In essence, what they're saying, this is a national model. And I am proud that it is Jersey City and New Jersey that leads the nation in making sure there is a second chance for each and every one of our citizens. Thank you very much.
Again, Governor, thank you very much for being here. And I just want to reiterate so that everyone knows that we've been honored to have, most importantly, the First Lady up to Integrity House. And can some of the gang from Integrity House, can I have a witness if you're with Integrity House? And we had the First Lady up to a treatment program, and the governor's been kind enough to come up to Director Villas's Hudson County Jail and the Integrity Unit a couple of times. So, Governor, just quickly, you've understood the importance of moving people into treatment as opposed to incarceration. And there's a national challenge, and I think Senator Menendez has talked about the second chance. What can we do as a nation in a bipartisan sense to move America in a more rapid way towards understanding that addiction is a disease that's not addressed behind bars?
Well, Governor, first thing is that we have to acknowledge first that while the war on drugs was well-meaning and well-intentioned, that by every measure that we could take it, it's been a failure. As a public policy to deal with the human concerns that we have in our country. And the next step, that's the first step. We have to acknowledge that. And then to move on to what can be effective, what can work for folks. And, you know, I've seen it in so many places, and friends and family members who have addiction issues. It is a disease. And we need to acknowledge that too. If we acknowledge it's a disease, then we can begin to remove the stigma from the idea of second chances and treatment as the alternative to deal with that disease. Any other disease, of course, the first thing you would say to a friend is to go and get treatment, not to go to jail. And so that's what we need to get our mindset in now.
And again, I want to say thank you to your administration, because thanks to Governor Christie, we're able to provide this program for the men in jail, and thanks to Commissioner Velez, who I can't say enough good things about. We're certified as a licensed treatment center. But we try to provide three things. One is treatment, because if you're not sober, you can't reunify with your family, you can't hold down a job, you can't pay your rent. Second is transitional housing, and the third is workforce, the ability to have a job. So if you're looking at nationally in terms of the Republican Party and Democrats and Republicans, I think when we recognize that 2/3 of ex-offenders commit another felony within 3 years, we understand what we're doing now doesn't work. And if 70% of the people behind bars are addicts, how do we shift a national and state focus to provide for treatment as opposed to simply incarceration?
Well, first off, by simply having the courage to state those facts and not be ashamed of it. I mean, it is the fact of our society right now that the numbers you just gave are accurate numbers and ones that reflect what's really happening. If you send someone to prison, especially folks who are nonviolent offenders, and you send them to prison, you don't provide them with treatment or any type of counseling, and then you release them, and they're still addicted, why would you think that the cycle would be broken? It can't be. And so the cycle's broken by giving people the tools to be able to deal with their disease. Now, if you, in terms of a national conversation, you know, sometimes I guess I think of things too simply, but you just have to say it. And we don't have enough people saying it. We have people who are still concerned that if somehow you say this, that it makes you soft on crime in some way. I think what it does is make you smart about how to deal with the crime issues that we have in our country. But you have to be willing to step out there and say, not every offense not only deserves incarceration, but remember, incarceration is meant not only to keep people safe, but to rehabilitate. And you cannot rehabilitate someone with a drug addiction if you don't give them the counseling and the treatment that's necessary to give them the tools to be able to deal with their addiction. And that's what we need to say nationally.
And I also want to thank you for what you did on bail reform, if you wanted to speak to that.
Well, listen, in our society right now, we have two sets of problems on opposite ends of the criminal justice system. We have literally thousands of people who are in New Jersey right now in the equivalent of debtor's prison, because for a minimal bail for $250 in cash, they could be bailed out. But so many of our folks don't have $250 in cash, don't know someone who has $250 in cash. What I say for those low-level nonviolent offenders is we need to set up a system like we have on the federal level to let people out on their own recognizance, have some type of monitoring, but there is no reason that just because you're poor, you should have to stay in jail. And on the opposite end of New Jersey, we have a constitution which requires bail in every instance other than risk of flight. Well, many of our violent criminals are unfortunately, no risk of flight to go anywhere else. They're staying here. And the fact is, a judge in our state system is currently not allowed to consider a prior violent criminal record and dangerousness to that community by releasing someone, and has to give them bail. That's wrong too, because what happens is, for a lot of these folks who are violent sociopaths, they go back, they intimidate witnesses, they kill witnesses, they ruin cases, and they avoid incarceration in that way. So we should trust our judges to be able on that side to take into account if someone has 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 violent crimes in their past. Well, we should detain those folks. And we do that in the federal system right now. I did it as U.S. attorney. It's done very judiciously by judges. Judges make those calls. And so on both ends, we need to make our streets safer by taking the really violent sociopaths and taking them off the streets to protect our families. But on the other end, we have thousands of nonviolent offenders who are in prison for lack of $250. That's not right. That's debtor's prison. It's not what this state's supposed to be about. So we need to fix on both ends. And I'm actually very pleased that ourselves and the Republican Party and the Democrats came together. And the voters will have the final say this November to amend our Constitution to permit that to happen. I'm confident they will. And we will have a much fairer justice system in this state when we're done this November than we did when we got here.
Thank you, Governor. And we're very much honored to have Jim Pelosi, the great chairman of the New Jersey State Parole Board here. One of the realities is that people who max out of jail actually recidivate at a higher level than those under the jurisdiction of parole. And I think there's an effort on behalf of many people of goodwill on both sides of the aisle to embolden parole, and that is to give parole the ability to move people out with the necessary sanctions and to create, if you will, not only a presumptive parole, but not coerce individuals to necessarily go back to the parole board repeatedly for that appeal. I mean, is there something that we can do to try to move those nonviolent offenders out of prison more quickly, particularly if they have a record of good history while behind bars?
Well, there's no doubt that we can, and I think that's the next natural step to what we've done with bail reform. What I've tried to do, and I think I can do this because I spent 7 years as the chief federal prosecutor in this state, and I don't think people call me lots of things, as you know. Soft on crime's not one of them. It may be the only one left they don't call me, but the fact is that I think if someone like me does not lead the fight on this and give people political cover, because these are difficult things, as you know, in politics. It's very easy to be able to smear someone with that kind of charge and have it really stick politically and hurt them. And that, I think, it's not common sense, it's political issues that hold us back from doing these things. And so what I'm trying to do is to say to folks, I've experienced this as a law enforcement official for a long time. I know we can do this better, and I want to give political cover to both Republicans and Democrats to do what in their heart they know is right, but they're scared to politically. And I've said to anybody who supports me on these measures, no matter which party you're in, someone comes after you on these issues, I will go and defend you on it, because we need to bring those people together to do things that make sense. So I think we can, Governor. I think it's the next logical step in this, and I'm confident that because of the experience we had on bail reform and on mandatory drug rehabilitation for first-time offenders on drug court in the entire state, because we've had those successes in a bipartisan way, it's going to make the next one even easier to do.
Can you talk about, give her, this was my mother clapping for you.
Thank you, Mrs. McGreevy. I know I could count on you. Thank
you.
you.
She also claps for Menendez, whatever he says. It's
okay. She's a smart political mother. Absolutely exactly.
Could you talk about your sense of second chances? And I know on a personal level how generous you've been to me, but where the sense comes from your faith and your background and your understanding that addiction is a disease that's not treated behind bars.
Well, I mean, I think it's even broader than that, right? I mean, we all make mistakes every day. We all do. And you know, I was actually in church yesterday, and the homily yesterday in church was about the strength you need to forgive. That many people think there's a strength in holding grudges and exacting revenge. But the priest yesterday was talking to us in church about the strength you need to forgive. And it just reinforced to me yesterday what I felt all along, which is that we all make mistakes all the time. And that the capacity to be able to forgive and give people who want a second chance, who are willing to work for a second chance, that second chance is something that there but for the grace of God go I. And we should feel that every day. And so from my perspective, it is rooted in my faith, but it's more than that. It's much more than that because it's rooted in my everyday experience. The mistakes I've made, the mistakes people in my family have made and friends have made, and watch them pay the price for those mistakes. So the question is, if someone doesn't want to be helped, it's very difficult to help them. And if someone doesn't want a second chance and work for it, it's hard for you to give it to them. But for those people who just need some help, who need counseling, who need addiction therapy, to be able to deal with the things that led them to their mistake, we have to be willing to reach out a hand to those folks. No matter what, I talk about this in the context of what a lot of people in my party talk about as a pro-life position. And it seems to me that if you're pro-life, you got to be pro-life for the entire life, not just when they're in the womb. And it's easy, it seems to me, to be pro-life when you're in the womb. They haven't done anything to disappoint us. They haven't done anything to fail themselves or us. The kid who's sitting in a jail cell in Hudson County, strung out on heroin, having stolen from his parents or his grandparents, having robbed a liquor store, having done the awful things that he did or she did to feed their addiction. It's harder to be in favor of that life. But that child is one of God's creations just as much as anybody else, and we have to be there for that person as well. That's what it's rooted in for me.
Hey, so, you know, today, and on my last question, today we're celebrating this great edifice thanks to Mayor Fulop, but I know Governor Christie's thinking about the best public housing in the nation. And
You're bad, man.
But as you're on this trail, like it just, if this could be part of the national conversation, because as you well know, and Mayor Pat well knows, that it's one family at a time in very painful circumstances that finds their son and daughter in addiction, suffering from an overdose, and that prison can't be the answer, and that you've made that fight on so many different venues. But if we can make this not a political discussion, but an American discussion, we will be a better people for that.
Well, listen, and Governor, I think it has to be a political discussion. You know, like it or not, that's the way we resolve issues in our society. We have two ways to resolve issues in our society civilly, right? We have our judicial system, and we have our political system. And those are the ways we resolve this. So I don't look at politics on this as a dirty word. We need to have a political discussion about this, and people need to understand what the ramifications for our society are when we don't have the conversation. Listen, it's easy enough to throw people in jail, lock them away, and we don't see them.
Yeah.
Right? So it's easy just to say, well, I don't see them, and I don't see the problem, so I don't have to feel the problem. Those folks all come back. The very, very rare one stays there for their entire lives. They come back, and we see them again. How do we want to see them the next time? Do we want to see them as a better husband or wife, a better father or mother, a better sister or brother, a better son or daughter, someone who can get a job, someone who can contribute to our society as a volunteer, someone who can raise their children in a way that makes our society a better place? We're going to see them again.
Yes.
It's how are we going to see them? And we have to contribute to seeing them in a way that reaches their fullest God-given potential. And I'm happy to be one of the people who has that political conversation, because to get that done, we have to convince people in political office that it is in the best interest of the people they serve and will not damage them politically. And that's the fact. We may want to ignore that second part of it, but it's the truth. And so let's deal with it up front. Let's be smart about it. Let's just say it bluntly and directly. And I think there's so much common sense to it and so much human redemptive power to it that, we shouldn't shy away from it. So we should have that discussion politically, and we should empower our judicial system to be a part of what makes it happen. Those are the two ways we resolve civilly our conflicts and problems in this society, because if we don't do it that way, we resolve it violently on the streets, which is not good for anybody in our society. So let's have the conversation, and I've been a part of it. I'm happy to continue to be a part of it, and I absolutely feel in my heart that it's the right thing to do, so we need to do it.
Thank you, Governor. Let's a round of applause for our governor.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Again, thank you to Governor Christie for taking his time today and to sharing with us a vision that he's presided over during the duration of his term in government. And now for our featured speaker, and we heard time and time again the responsibilities and the duties of being a leader, of being a speaker in the House of Representatives and leading a party. These are challenging times for our nation on so many issues. But what we look forward in a leader is someone whose values are true and clear, and someone who understands the dream and aspirations of America. As Senator Menendez said, the Second Chance Act provided funding for this program. When Director Villas, Ben Lopez, and the county executive started. And the Second Chance Act believed that with treatment, with housing, with employment, we could do things differently. She has been, I believe, not only because she was the first woman speaker in the House of Representatives, but for all of those who yearn to share in the American dream, for all of those who are in the margins of life, and for those in the mainstream who want to do better, who seek to have their children climb to the next step. Our leader represents that vision. For me personally, it's her great daughter, Alexandra, who spent time in the Hudson County Jail and on the streets of Jersey City talking to the women, listening to their dreams, and hearing their aspirations. But for every day and every fight in the well of the House of Representatives, there is a leader who enshrines the Democratic vision, and whether it's health care, whether it's immigration rights, whether it's second chance, whether it's the new frontier for this nation, a person who believes that America's best days are in front of her. Ladies and gentlemen, Leader Nancy Pelosi.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for that very warm welcome. When the mayor came to my office to extend the invitation to be here today, it was very official. He couldn't know how personally touched I was by it, just because of the purpose of Martin's Place, but also because of the great leadership of the mayor and of Governor Jim McGreevey. Now, let me say this, because we've been here a while, and we just heard this beautiful discussion between the governor and the governor, McGreevey, and Governor Christie. And you've heard about, of course, the service not only of Donald Payne, but of his father. So I want to make a personal connection to today that you may not be aware of. Several years ago, I went to Africa with Donald Payne. Donald Payne rules. You know, people respected him, Donald Payne Sr. and now Jr., but I'm talking about his dad. We went to the AME University in Monrovia, Liberia, where a room was being dedicated to Donald Payne Sr. for his great work for human rights and lifting up people in Africa and really throughout the world. As Jim said, even Northern Ireland, bringing peace there. So anyway, governors, we go to the place. It is boiling hot. There must have been 18 speakers. I was about 15, but around number 13 gets up. Now everybody is boiling hot. The Africans are dressed in African attire. The congressmen are dressed in U.S. attire with African attire over it, so they're boiling hot. And one of the speakers gets up and he says, every speaker has gotten up, has mentioned the name of everybody here, and that's taken a lot of time. So I'm just going to say to all the dignitaries here, everyone who expects to be recognized, thinks he should be recognized, to all of the dignitaries here, honors granted. The whole crowd cheered and cheered and cheered. So I was tempted when I was introduced to say honors granted. But no, with 4 governors here, I have to acknowledge what an honor it is to be here with Governor Christie and with Governor Kean and with Governor Byrne and with Governor McGreevey. What a special occasion for Jersey City to have all of these governors here. To be here with Senator Menendez and my colleagues, Donald Payne Jr. and Albio Cirrus, and our former colleague, Frank Guarini, who is here. To be here with the mayor, isn't he wonderful? A new generation of leadership, Mayor Fulop. Cornell Brooks, oh my goodness, I'm glad that he is here. Cornell Brooks at the NAACP. And so many people, and to acknowledge Senator Cunningham, Senator Stack, to acknowledge a person who is an assemblywoman now, but who will be a member of Congress. We look forward to welcoming Bonnie Watson Coleman to the Congress of the United States. And thank all of them for what they have done to make this possible. So this connection to Donald Payne's district, to Jim McGreevey, to these great governors and what they have done for this state and for our country, for my colleagues in the Congress. You may not know, it wasn't mentioned, but I represent San Francisco in the Congress of the United States. And governors, that is the city of St. Francis. It is, he is our patron saint. And his anthem, "Make me an instrument of thy peace," in it he said, to forgive, to be forgiven. As the governor said, we all make mistakes. We have to have the humility to forgive others if we think we should ever be forgiven. He also said, and this is really my point of today, he said, St. Francis did, preach the gospel, sometimes use words. And what we are doing here today is preaching the gospel at Martin's Place. I don't ever remember in the Bible Christ talking about or identifying himself with leading public officials, right? But I do remember, as you do in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus saying, when I was hungry, you gave me to eat. When I was homeless, you gave me shelter. When I was in prison, you visited me. God, Jesus, elevated the dignity of people in prison, and so should we. And so should we. Because, as has been said, and I've loved the dialogue and everything that others have said, thank you, governors and others, because we're talking about not a crime, but an addiction. And that's why I was so proud to be the Speaker of the House when we passed the Second Chance Act. And I was so proud that the bill was signed by a Republican President of the United States, George W. Bush. So we had a Democratic Congress. The members here worked on that. Mr. Menendez took it up in the Senate so that it became the law of the land. And governors and senators, all of you, it is a national model. It is of Martin's Place is of national significance. So another reason I'm here is to say thank you, because you are not only helping people here, you're helping people across the country, because you've served as a model that this can be done. That this can be done. But as the dialogue indicated, we have more to do. And as Governor Kean said, rungs of the ladder that we have, that Martin Luther King, he paved the way. But he said, I have a dream. When he said I, he gave everyone license to develop their own dream. It's not for us to say to people, this is the way you have to do it because this is my dream. It is, we want to give you the tools so you can have your dream. And how we do that, I'm very pleased when we passed, and my colleagues were all part of that, when we passed the mental health parity bill. It wasn't just about mental health, it was mental health and addiction. Mental health and addiction, which then became part of the Affordable Care Act, I might add, to have that treatment, Because what we must have, as was indicated by all of the speakers, treatment on demand. Prevention, first and foremost. Treatment on demand. But we have work to do. We have work to do with the criminal justice system, as was indicated by the discussion now. We must do away with mandatory minimum sentences. We must do away with 3 strikes and you're out, which we have in California, because we're putting people in prison in an unjustified way. And as the Governor Christie said, give the judges the discretion. And the judges come to us when they come for their budgets and all the rest, and they say, do away. The judges, I don't care what party they're in, what political philosophy they have, they know one thing. Justice is better served if you leave it to the discretion of the judges rather than carve out a place that predetermines, regardless of the facts, what the sentence will be. Well, so many things, but we're here to cut the ribbon, to dedicate Martin's Place. Martin's Place here is bricks and mortar. Martin's Place is always in our hearts. And he wrote probably what was one of the most important communications ever from prison. From prison. But listen to what he said as it applies to Martin's Place today. That when people are plagued with inner fears and outer resentments, when you are forever fighting a degenerating sense of nobodiness, then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait. That's what he said. But as all of our speakers have said, we respect the dignity and worth of every person. We respect the spark of divinity that exists in every person. We acknowledge that everybody, we're all God's children, as the governor said, whether you're a 16-year-old in prison or whatever. And if we are people of faith and we believe that, we can do nothing else but act upon that belief in a way that respects that dignity. That's what we are here to do today. Albio brought the flag, and may we always remember our pledge to that flag. Liberty and justice for all. That's what today is about. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. Thank you, Jim McGreevey, for being so wonderful. Thank you, Jersey City. Thank you, Mayor Fulop.